Today we're going to discuss properties of chords. Got a couple of theorems, several theorems that we need to discuss, so let's get into it. Alright, 10.3 says, in the same circle or congruent circle, so this works both ways, two minor arcs are congruent if and only if their corresponding chords are congruent. So basically, arc AB is congruent to arc CD if the chord that intersects them are congruent. So it works in both directions. All right. So the chords are congruent, then the arcs are congruent. All right. So in the diagram, circle A and circle D are congruent. Segment BC is congruent to segment EF, and the measure of arc EF is 125. Find the measure of arc BC. Based on all the information they gave us, BC and EF being congruent, if the arc EF is 125, then the arc BC is also 125. Okay? So they're just saying these congruent circles or the same circle. Okay? So that's important. It don't always have to be in the same circle. It can be two congruent circles. All right? The next two. If one chord is a perpendicular bisector of another chord, then the first chord is the diameter. So basically they said anytime you have a chord that is perpendicular and it bisects another chord, then that has to be, SQ has to be the diameter. If it does those things, if it's perpendicular and bisects the other chord, then SQ has to be the diameter. And this says if that happens, then it not only bisects the, that being that EG is perpendicular to this chord here, FD, but also that it bisects, then what that means is that it also bisects the arc as well. So FG, arc FG is congruent to GD. So DG is congruent to GF, and FH, this segment here, is congruent to HD. All right? So what I used to do is take a look at the pictures and make sure I understand what the pictures are saying and then correspond it with the words. All right, so right now I'm just simply reading back to you the theorems and stuff. It's up to you to implement these and make sure you understand what it's saying here. All right, use the diagram of circle E to find the length of BD. Okay, now it says tell what theorem you'll use. I'm not necessarily interested in it, seeing as how we're kind of skipping over proofs, which is a no-no in geometry. But notice that AC is perpendicular to BD. So I got two chords and this one is perpendicular. All right. Based on that idea, if this from here to here is 6, this bisects this segment. So if this part is 6, FB is also 6. So the whole thing for BD would be 12. Simple enough. The next one. In the same circle or two congruent circles, if two chords are congruent, if and only if they are equidistant from the center. So AB will be congruent to CD, the chords, if and only if they're the same distance from the center. So EF and EG, but notice that it can't just touch anywhere. It's that perpendicular intersection, you know. And so what you have here is an example. In the diagram of circle F, AB is CD. AB equals, CD equals 12. Find EF. So what does that mean right here? That means that these are congruent. All right. So if they're congruent, that means that these segments right here are congruent. So the equation that I would set up then, since they're congruent, the equation I would set up, yes, that's right, you guessed it, because I can hear you, or read your mind, is 3x equals 7x minus 8. Solving for x, x equals 2. Okay? Now, is that my answer? Well, it wants us to find EF. So EF has to be 6. So I take 3x, substitute 2 in for that. and that's what EF equals. Alright, so I've just reviewed real quick some new properties. We have to be able to look at these pictures and understand what the picture is saying and what is congruent, what equals one another, what bisects, what is perpendicular. Many times they do stuff like this, and whenever you see perpendicular, you know for sure that Pythagorean theorem is going to show up. And so keep in mind that this piece and this piece bisect are equal, and it makes a right angle, and so you can throw a triangle in there sometimes. So just be aware of these theorems. The pictures and stuff is what's important if you understand, based on the picture, what's congruent and what's not. Alright, that's pretty much it in 10.3, properties of chords. How you doing work over the weekend, or at least on Friday? No, you probably doing this Monday morning, or this is right at lunch, right before class.